What's up? Moose here again. We're going to be taking a look at this 1998 Johnson 200 Ocean Runner. It's having some power issues getting out of the chute and top end. RPM range isn't really what it needs to be. That could be coming from a few different problems. The carburetors could need to be cleaned, or it could just need a full rebuild. You don't know until you start looking. So today we're going to be doing a compression test to determine on whether I need to do a test run to get a baseline, or if I just need to go ahead and start looking at an engine rebuild. So we're going to start the motor up, get it up to temp, and then we're going to be doing a compression test. Stick around and see what happens. The old cold start two-stroke. If the motor is able to be run, I like to run it and get it up to working temp before I do a compression test. You'll get two different readings usually. That's due to the rings being able to expand and create more compression. So you'll get a more accurate reading, I feel like, if you can get the motor up to temp. If not, a cold reading will still get you in the ballpark. So now that we got the engine warm, what we're going to do is go ahead and do the compression test, and I like to stay in sequence. Something that's helpful is to take a piece of paper and draw your cylinders. So that'd be cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on a V engine. Inline, it'll just go in a row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however many. But it just keeps it to where you can have a visual and keep it organized. And the sequence in actually testing, I like to do in that sequence 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Like I said, just keep everything uniform. Something else that's nice to have, remote starter switch, so you ain't gotta have two people or keep going back and forth. On 4 strokes, it's gonna be nice to have a spark plug socket set, but these 2 strokes you can usually just use a adjustable because their spark plug's a lot more accessible. And then also a nice compression test kit, so that way you know it's accurate. Don't go cheap on your diagnostic equipment. When you actually start to run the test, you're going to want to make sure the key's off so it's not producing any spark. Or you could just pull the dead man switch, kill switch, whatever you want to call it. You just don't want any spark while fuel air mixture is going into the cylinders. I already know I'm going to have to do a carb rebuild on this motor. And I don't know if I said it before, but this will be a playlist style video. Just depends on how many videos we're going to have to do on what we find out with the compression check. This might be a rebuild, or it'll just be carburetor rebuild and possibly reed valves. Something that's going to require you to start doing these things is power loss. So if you have a motor that you believe you're not getting all the power out of, especially on these 2 strokes, a lot of it is going to come down to your compression and your carbs. Unless you have an HPDI fuel injected 2-stroke, and then there'll be other problems. But on these carbureted 2 strokes, all your power loss is going to be coming from either low compression, carburetors not being in sync, carburetors not being tuned right, and being dirty, needing to be cleaned, or a combination of the both. So it's important to do these tests. All right. So you're going to find in your compression test kit the right hose to thread in. I'm going to be threading it in until it hits the seal. Doesn't need to be super tight. You don't want to break that seal. Connect our gauge, make sure it's bled out. We'll stop moving the gauge, we'll stop moving, and we are at just under 100 PSI. I'm going to call it 95. Looks like 95 PSI on cylinder 1, so we're going to write down in the book. And what we're looking for, which that's within range. I wouldn't call that low compression. It's a 98 model, so pretty decent. But what we're looking for is, one, to be the PSI to be in range, and two, there not to be a lot of variance, so less than 10% variance between all the cylinders. Decompress the compression tester, and then we're just going to do that to each cylinder. All right, so what we're looking at is we found 95 on cylinder 1, 90 on 2, 95 on 3, 95 on 4, 90 on 5, and then drop down 82 on cylinder number 6, which means I don't like this much of a gap in compression, especially on these older motors. So it does look like we're going to be doing a carb rebuild. I'm going to look at the reed valves to see if they need to be replaced. And then, unfortunately, we're going to be pulling heads because we got to figure out why there's PSI dropping one that little. I'm assuming and hoping it's just the O-ring head gaskets, but I'm not very excited about pulling the heads. We do have a few rusted bolts. So this is a 98. Pretty good condition for 98, to be honest with you. Not a whole lot of rust, but those bolts worry me, so that'll be a video for another time, another day. I'm probably going to end up having to do some bolt extraction with it, so stay tuned. Like I said, this is going to be a playlist style video on getting this motor right for the springtime, next springtime, but it's not going to be going back into the water until I can get the compression right and get the power up. Make sure y'all like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can have access to this whole playlist and see what this motor can do. Till next time.